Hi, this is Cindy Beach from Stamps, Paper, and Ink. I am here to show you today a great technique for using your Blendabilities to color on top of white embossing. Let's get started. I'm beginning with a sheet of Blackberry Bliss cardstock with the tree embossed and top on white. The markers I'll be using are the light, medium, and dark olive, the Daffodil Delight, and I'm using the bronze marker from the Flesh Tones set. The first thing I want to point out is that the tree and the leaves are made up of circular areas. If you imagine circles going through the tree leaves, that will give you an idea of why I'm coloring this way. I'm using the Daffodil Delight light marker, and I'm using a flicking motion, almost like a little squirrel, a little scribble or swirl. I combine those words. And so I'm just laying that down just to get, I like to have a light base of color before I add the main color and the shading, so that it just gives me a light layer of something that shows through besides the white. I also am taking careful note of where the dark areas are on the stamp itself. This image has them. If you notice, they're on the right side of that oak is where the darkest areas are. So I refer to that stamp often as I continue to lay down color. The next area I'm going to work on is the trunk, and with that I'm using the bronze marker. There's not much area on the trunk itself to color, but I'm carrying that color up through several of the branches that I can notice when I look at the stamp itself. It's important to have those colors of brown peeking through. So I'm just using a very, very light touch with my marker, my Blendabilities marker. Next, I'm going to be using the light shade of olive, and I'll be going through and again using that same sort of flicking scribble motion. I'm just going to begin to fill in more areas of the tree. This part doesn't have to be too specific. It is important to note that you need to let your colors dry before you add the next shade. Again, I'm just laying it down, and it's not a blending motion. This is really just kind of think of more dots or scribbles of color and different layers that give the tree that look that you want it to have. And I keep going back over the areas I've noticed that need a little more. I'll do this often, as you'll notice through the rest of the video. Stop every once in a while and take a look and see how it is before you go on to the next step. Found a few more areas that needed brown, so I'm adding those now. Now I'm going in at the very bottom with the Old Olive dark marker, and I'm doing just the very bottom of the grass under the tree, and very few places in the tree now. Now is where the real shading begins. And I also want to make sure I explain to you that the reason you need to use dark cardstock when using this technique is that it will be very generous to hide any lines that stray outside of the embossed image, which is a natural thing to happen. But it will show up on a light color. On a dark color, it just blends in and looks like a little further shading. You can see how I've gone through, and now I'm choosing areas of the tree. Again, I'm looking at the label on the back of the stamp as a guide, but I'm using again the squiggly lines and just putting in some areas that I want to make the darkest areas. It adds it gives the look of real foliage. And really the stamp is just perfect for that, this image. I am continually stopping, looking over, and changing back to other colors, because this kind of coloring is all about layering. I'm going in again with the lighter color now after I've put some dark areas in, and I'm filling in the spaces that don't have any color. This is what gives it depth, the layer of color and the shapes of the lines that you color with. I'm making sure that the edges of the outside of the tree are having light colors on them now, so that there really isn't white visible, but there is an undercoating every once in a while. You can see back to that yellow, and as someone commented in my blog, it makes the tree almost look backlit. It's good to stop and to keep checking and decide what's missing and see if you like it. I realized that there was a piece of the trunk that I hadn't colored in, so I'm getting that now. I think that's going to be the way I like it, except for just these few last additions of the light color. And you'll notice in this image that there are some blank places where the blackberry bliss shows through. That would be true in any tree. Those would be the lightest areas. But it really gives a lovely effect with the dark colored cardstock showing through. So there are my last few touches. That's it. That's the finished design. Each one of these that you do will turn out differently. This is the one I did today. Here are two more samples coming up to show you. On this second one, I used a darker color on the trunk. And this one has a little less of the shaded look. Thanks so much for visiting today. I hope you've been inspired. Go make something beautiful.